Let's explore meditation's best panic attack remedies. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. An individual asks, and I'll get back to James in a moment, an individual asks about recommendations for hyperventilation syndrome. This individual wrote, I've been having shortness of breath due to anxiety the past 2 days. All cleared by medical professionals. I shallow breathe and hold my breath all day without realizing it. Any recommendations for meditations that might help? Scared to do anything with breath work. Maybe it'll help. No, it won't. So, when we choose breath work, we are indulging our controlling tendencies. There's 2 ways we can breathe. We can take control of breathing, or we can let the medulla oblongata portion of our brainstem do the breathing. The Buddha recommends that we let the body breathe on autopilot. So, here in the West, we tend to be very, very controlling and to be very solution-oriented. I'm having a panic attack and I'm breathing in a way that's uncomfortable. I must fix it, and here's how I'll do it. That won't work. Let's begin with broad brushstrokes. Panic attack is not an indictment. It's not an indictment on our courage. It is not an indictment on our intellect. It is a commentary on our body and how our body has been affected by trauma. Trauma can be overt or it can be subtle. It can be present or it can be past. Panic is less of a psychological issue and more of a physiological issue with psychological symptoms. And that's an important distinction to make. I recommend 3 things: walking meditation, laying meditation, and meditation break. And that's very, very important. We got to give ourselves a break. So let's begin with a bit of the old neuroscience. And we're going to explore neuroscience today in 2 bits. Let's begin with the neuroscience of walking meditation. And by the way, if you get a chance to pick up on Amazon the book Walking Your Blues Away by Dr. Tom Harton, PhD, I strongly recommend it. So getting back to the neuroscience of panic, over here we have our amygdala, the seat of both aggression and anxiety. And over here, we have our hippocampus. I guess the amygdala would be right here, but it's not shown in this illustration for some strange reason. So, this bit right here is the hippocampus. And we can think of it as like a nightclub, with a guy in front of the nightclub, behind a velvet robe, with a clipboard. If a memory or an experience does not enter the hippocampus, it's experienced as the present moment, regardless of how many years ago it was, regardless of what our intellect tells us. Physiologically, it is treated as the present moment until it's accepted by the hippocampus. Walking meditation is great because it kind of acts like a massage of both our hippocampus and our amygdala, but for some reason seems to help. Many people struggle with panic attacks. I'm one of them. It helps to understand the physiology behind it so you can cut through the superstition. There's lots of people, some stupid, some malicious, who will try to use our vulnerabilities to cast aspersions on us. That's unfortunate for them. For us, it's an inconvenient blessing. It gives us an opportunity to evolve. I love science fiction. I love Star Trek, but I also love, I love Star Wars, but I also love Star Trek. I know of no species in the Star Trek Alpha Quadrant who's more robust than either the Vulcans or the Klingons. And both of them have a tradition of fasting because they want to feel vulnerable. And so in both these fictitious cultures, there is the tendency to seek physiological vulnerability as an opportunity for insight and growth. Meanwhile, in reality, as we know it, we're castigated for our vulnerabilities. But I assure you, if we use them as opportunities, they can benefit us in ways heretofore unimagined. So, walking meditation is predicated on basic understanding of meditation. So let's explore that right now. First, what meditation is not. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. There is a lot of bad meditation instruction. There are a lot of bad meditation writers, and there are a lot of bad meditation teachers. Most of them are not malicious. Most of them are just lazy-minded. If you have a teacher or an author who's telling you to actively concentrate or actively analyze, the only way to do that is to rely upon such neurological structures as our medial prefrontal cortex or our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Our prefrontal cortex is a wonderful tool for organizing our sock drawer or noticing patterns or doing advanced math. It's excellent for that. But it did not evolve to herd the psychotic kittens of our limbic system. And when we try to use it for that, when we abuse our prefrontal cortex for something it is not evolved to do, in the short term, it causes our anxious and aggressive amygdala to light up, and in the long term, it can cause our brain to present with symptoms of depression, and nobody wants that. Fortunately, we've evolved organelles within our central nervous system which are optimized for stress. Let's begin with mindfulness, which is the seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired to access our sympathetic nervous system located in the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to perceive and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. So we are evolved to notice sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're evolved to perceive emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. This can be profoundly overwhelming. Fortunately, there is a solution. Let us turn our attention to meditation, the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system ensconced within the lower third and upper third of that same spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Now, you could say, well, if that's the case, and I can already do this on autopilot, then why bother with meditation? Glad you asked. Due to the eccentricities of the way in which the three-ring circus of our central nervous system has evolved, we've got so much going on here that various organelles will often interfere with each other. That's just the quirks of our species. Fortunately, we have language, and that's a wonderful tool. If, during our inhalation, we silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this, it will help our brain to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system. During our exhalation, when we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease, it helps this exact same brain to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system, which works out very, very well. And so something as easy as giving monosyllabic instructions to your brain, or having your brain recite monosyllabic instructions, keeps it from acting like Urkel in a china shop. So now that you know how meditation works, we can apply it to walking meditation. I recommend brisk walking meditation. Swing those arms, swing those legs, go for it. Now, if you're in turmoil, I don't recommend crossing the street. That could be perilous. So please do your walking meditation on your block. Do it for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 minutes. When you've physically had enough, come on home. Now, if your body's too tired to walk anymore, but it's still panicky, shortness of breathing, and twitchiness, no problems. Continue with your meditation, but do so on your back, preferably on a firm surface, like a carpeted floor or a floor with a yoga mat on it, and lie on your back, chest facing the ceiling, face facing the ceilings, arms in the anatomical position, and persist with your meditation for an additional 10 to 20 minutes. That could really, really help take the edge off. Now, after 40 minutes of walking meditation and 20 minutes of laying meditation, if you are still having trouble, give yourself a break. And do something recreational. Have a snack. Drink a tall glass of water. Watch a TV show or a kitty cat video or a doggy video. We're living in the golden age of streaming services right now. Give yourself a rest. If after 30 minutes or 60 minutes your heart is still racing and your breathing is still labored, if you want to, you can hit the cycle again. Lather, rinse, repeat. But I can't emphasize the need for rest. Perhaps you've heard this before. Rest, rest. There is no medicine like rest. So before I answer James' question, I'm going to take care of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School for more than 30 years. I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So what I'd like to do right now is tap button 8. So James was asking, is there a way to cleanse your karma before receiving metta? So, metta isn't a blessing. It's something we are already wired to do. We don't have to work to love our partner, or love our pets, or love our favorite celebrity. We're already wired to do that. Let's talk about karma. So, as I've mentioned before, we can, on the path of this, the path of Devadatta, the path of being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And from that worldview, there is spooky karma. And we have to do penance, and we need forgiveness, and we need blessings, and we need all this rigmarole. Even though the Buddha taught against ritualism. Upon the path of Gautama, upon the path of the Buddha, implementing the worldview of being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. We do not have a spooky version of karma. We have perhaps a clinical version of karma. For instance, if you sprint in the direction of a cop, he's probably going to beat the hell out of you. That's the glory of cops. That's not mysterious karma, that's just cause and response. If you're standing butt naked and you're holding a cinder block, taking careful aim and dropping on your foot's going to be a bruised and bloody mess. That's not mysterious, that's just simple cause and effect. If we have some food poisoning and we become this demented fountain of waste products spewing both from our mouth and our tuchus, we might make a mess. And that mess will just clinically be yucky looking and yucky smelling and possibly a biohazard. Those in our lives who are loving will not be blind to the yuckiness of our vomit or our diarrhea, but they will not resent us for it. We cannot earn forgiveness. The good people in our lives will forgive us automatically. The bad people in our life won't. Although they might ask us to jump through hoops because they're just shitheads that way. Those people, forget about them. It's the people who forgive you automatically. Those are the keepers. So the question is, we feel guilt. We feel self-loathing. We might feel fear that we'll do it again, or the people we love will stop loving us. All these fears are understandable. We don't need a ritual. We don't need blessings. As in a few minutes we're going to chant and then we're going to meditate. And as we meditate, we might notice guilt. We might notice fear. We might notice unpleasant memories. We might notice imaginings. Some of those imaginings based on the future, some of them based on the past. It's not our job to argue with them. You can't. It's like trying to argue with your crazy uncle who wears a MAGA hat. It's like trying to play chess with a pigeon. Why don't I play chess with a pigeon? Because the pigeon's going to jump on the chessboard, knock shit over, poop on the chessboard, and then declare victory. It's a waste of time. Similarly, we can't successfully argue with our guilt or our fear or our self-loathing. But as we breathe in, we can notice whatever comes up, whether it's the fear and guilt or self-loathing, or whether it was a delicious meal we had last month. Whatever comes up, we can notice it. Vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And during our exhalation, it's possible to physically relax and mentally release, if not absolutely, then at least fractionally. And that's our life. No one goes through life only taking one breath, unless something went horribly wrong. People have an infinite number of breaths. People also have an infinite number of observations and releasing. The only label we need ever use is this. The only course of action we need ever use is ease. And the same advice I gave for the person who wrote in with the panic attacks can also work when we feel driven mad with guilt. There's a song, I think it came out in the early 70s, Everybody Plays the Fool. No one makes the grave without feeling like a star-spangled shithead on multiple occasions. If the people in your life won't give you grace, they don't deserve to be in your life. Be vulnerable with the ugly stuff. It's been my experience that the degree to which we are vulnerable is the degree to which we can physically relax and mentally release in this process. I hope that helps. And of course, my prescription is to watch Werewolf by Night. Stat. So, let's see. Let's tap button 9. And let's chant the 9th passage of the final meditation manual of Dzogchen Rinpoche. It's known as the Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones. Please chant with me. In this dark age, what people think and do is vile. None of them will help you, they could deceive and trick you. And for you to be of any help to them could be hard. Could it not be best to quit the whole rat race? Though you serve your superiors, they might never be pleased. Though you look after your so-called inferiors, they might never be satisfied. Ooh, Moon Knight is wonderful. Though you care about others, they might not care about you. Think about it and make a firm decision. Being learned these days may not help the teachings, it could just lead to more debate. Being realized these days might not help others, it could just lead to more criticism. Being in a responsible position these days might not help govern the country well, it might only spread revolt. Think about these times with sorrow and disgust. Though you explain, people could miss the point. Or let's see, let's try this again. Though you explain, people could miss the point or simply not believe you. Though your motivation is truly altruistic, people might think it is not. These days when the crooked see the straight is crooked, you might not be able to help anyone give up any hope of that. And now let's meditate. Today, I had a very difficult panic attack, and it was quite a spiritual workout. I got to do walking meditation, and I got to do some laying meditation, and I got to do some seated meditation. I got to practice what I preach. And of course, in the process, I got to say hi to neighbor dogs, which is always a delight. This one dog made me think of an adapted song. I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my tuchas, so pat it maybe. Okay, so let's talk turkey, said the vegan. So here's the deal. A relapse does not happen in a vacuum. There are causes. There is no free will. There's just an incredibly complex web of interdependencies. Says every neuroscientist and every physicist. The myth of free will was concocted by people with power so they could feel very justified in torturing people without power. The easiest way to prevent a future relapse is to be vulnerable, to let your brain show you all the different things that directly and indirectly contributed to an unfortunate series of events. It can be tempting to look for one cause and then tell ourselves a story about that. And although that might be neat, science ain't neat. Reality ain't neat. Anybody who's dealt with the cat knows that creatures are not neat. The easiest way to have our next relapse is to take a cavalier attitude towards our last relapse and just tell ourselves a simple story. Let's not do that. Let us not tell ourselves tales of karma, or tales of self, or tales of ego. For while neat, they are not helpful. We need to rest. We need to recreate. We need to eat food that is as healthy as it is delicious. If we do not meet our needs, we will set ourselves up for another unfortunate series of events. Now, we can't always do what we want to do when we do it, when we'd like to, for as long as we'd like to. So it's useful if we have a series of things that we enjoy doing for recreation. But find things that give you joy. That's very, very important. Whether it's cuddles or TV or dancing around the apartment or going for walks or workouts or hikes, whatever, or cooking or cleaning, whatever floats your boat. That's very, very important. Who can forget, brace yourself for a very bad impersonation, who can forget the words of Jack Nicklaus? All work and no play make Jack a dull boy. Please do not live in the Overlook Hotel. It does not end well for its denizens. Please be aware, or please beware of people wearing ridiculous clothes and bad haircuts trying to manipulate you or coerce you. These people are not your friends. The path of Devadatta is the path of coercement. The path of the Buddha is the path of allowing. People flatter you and try to induce you to do things. They're little Devadattas. They aren't little Buddhas, regardless of how they dress or how expensive their palace is. The Buddha was raised in a palace. He had no use for a palace after he was enlightened. He lived in a hut. He slept in the rough. It's not the job of a monk to tell people, to tell laity to go take care of others, nuns and monks. They can invite donations, that's great. They can invite people to use their talents and resources, that's great. But they don't get to coerce people. Be aware of that. Please be aware of that. You need people to be the wind beneath your wings. You don't need anybody riding your shoulders right now. It's been my experience that being exposed to those who would strive to coerce us can trigger us, can trigger our addictions, can trigger our destructive tendencies. Addiction is the dance of our dopamine-oriented reward system. And when people strive to coerce us, it shoves us into that, looking for release, looking for dopamine, looking for pleasure. There's a song, I'm not sure I like it very much, but it's a good song, and it sings about that if you have to make someone doing something kind for you, that's not love. That's bullying. That's coercement. That's manipulation. And it's not sustainable. Those of us who have tender hearts have noticed the effects that our words have on those around us. And we can notice when someone complies to our wishes, but with a crushed spirit. A crushed spirit is a price too high to pay for getting our way. A good person recognizes this. A bad person does not. Please do not allow sociopaths in your orbit. Fling desiccated cat duties at them if you must. together. All phenomena are like magical illusions in the moon does. But these days the illusions are more illusory than ever. Trickeries conjured up by devious illusionists. Beware of the illusions of this degenerate age's ways. All talk is like an echo, said the moon does. But these days it is more like the re-echo of an echo. What the echoes say and what they mean are not the same. So do not take any notice of these insidious echo words. Whoever you see might not be. Whoever you see might not be human but a fraud. Whatever people say might not be right but just lies. So since these days there might... So since these days there might be no one you can trust, you had better live alone and stay free. If your actions conform with Dharma, you could earn many beings. If your words are truthful, most people could get angry. If your mind is truly good and pure, they could judge it a defect. Now is the time to keep your own way hidden. This is a story I wish to tell specifically for James. Kevin, let me know if James is still there. Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let's chant. Hide your body by staying alone in the mountain wilderness. Hide your speech by cutting off contact and saying very little. Hide your mind by being continuously aware of your own faults alone. This is what it means to be a hidden yogi. Hey, boo-boo, let's go get a picnic basket. Disgust because there could be no one to be trusted. Sadness because there could be no meaning in anything. Determination because there could never be time to get everything you want. If you always keep these three things in mind, some good could come of it. There is no time to be happy, happiness is over just like that. You do not want to suffer, so eradicate the exacerbation of stress with Dharma. Whatever happiness or stress comes, recognize it as the power of your past actions. And from now on, enjoy freedom from the tyranny of dreads or desires. And from now on, enjoy freedom from the tyranny of dreads or desires regarding anyone at all. This is one of my favorite passages. I'm really excited to chant this with you. Expecting a lot from people, you do a lot of smiling. Needing many things for yourself, you have many needs to meet. Making plans to do first this and that, your mind is full of hopes and fears. From now on, come what may, do not be like that. If you've just tuned in, allow me to refresh your memory. As we inhale, silently, mentally, and passively we could recite the demonstrative pronoun this. As we kick back and watch the antics of mind, as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. As we exhale, while silently, mentally, and passively reciting the one-syllable verb ease, we can find ourselves relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. I just had a brainstorm. Maybe you should go back further. Uh-huh. Okay, this is not. I want to add something here, a contemplation, a classic contemplation. Give me a moment while I reach for it, cut it, and paste it. Please bear with me. Excellent. Okay. Please, okay, so what we're going to do now, so let's get some context, so please chant with me the 17th passage. Not long ago your consciousness was wandering alone, swept along by karma and took this present path, soon like air pulled out of butter. Leaving everything behind, you will go on again alone. So with the word karma, we touch on the idea of interdependence. With the idea of leaving, we touch on the idea of impermanence. That is a subtle reference to the following contemplation. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with the follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. All visible circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. So we're going to take all these words and squeeze them down into just 6 syllables, which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. We're going to take during our inhalation, we're going to silently, mentally, and passively recite the same 6 syllables. During our exhalation, let's physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. All sensual bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. Notice how the verb melt is a metaphor of impermanence, while the verb absorb is a metaphor of interdependence. Notice how we use the word as to remind us that this is a simile. And notice that instead of using the hard verb is, we're using the soft verb phrase could be. We're also exploring interdependence in a way that helps us to both harness as well as transcend our self-centeredness. And again, these 6 syllables are going to condense, all these words are going to condense down to just 6 syllables. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Oh, this is what we call an editing opportunity. All resounding interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this awareness or mind. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. All lucid minds could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be not graspable to the hand. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Now let's jump back to the 20th passage. Ooh, that's quite a schlep, isn't it? All right. Alright, so that I remember where tomorrow begins, I'm going to take a quick photograph of the page. Now we're going to jump to the end. Let us seal this evening's practice by percussively chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void now be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void now be as loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void now be as healthy as a Yadam archetype depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void now be as fortunate as a pure land of law depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.